the most celebrated graphic novel ever, Watchmen. Now the Watchmen characters in the DC universe come together for the first time in the most anticipated story in years. DC proudly presents Doomsday Clock. Jeff Johns, Gary Frank, a 12-issue comic book series. Get issue number 1 at a comic shop near you.
All right, Bernard, so what are you going to draw for us today?
Since I draw Batman Beyond, I think we'll draw Batman Beyond today.
Wonderful, yay! Batman Beyond fans, woo!
Any Batman Beyond fans out there?
Yeah, I can't hear you. Where are you? All right, so Bernard, can you tell us a little bit about which artists inspired you early on?
Oh, I was an immigrant to America. So comic books was a great transition into American culture, also
Wonderful.
learning English.
Yes.
But, you know, some of my favorite comic books I used to read, I remember Superman, Kurt Swan with The Flash, Wonder Woman, Batman, Neil Adams.
Okay.
They also used to have these books that were on these vinyl.
Oh.
I don't remember the DC vinyl, and then there would be a comic book, and you could play the vinyl on a record player.
Wow.
And hear, like, you know, all the, hey, what's up? Hear all the dialogue go on, and then the sound effects. Mm-hmm. And I remember, was it Man-Bat?
Oh, maybe Man-Bat. I remember, I think, seeing some of those in our archives, actually, that you're mentioning that. That's amazing. Yeah. And so, were there any, maybe even like Saturday morning cartoons or things that you remember?
Saturday morning cartoons, yes. So I grew up in Taiwan. And in Taiwan at the time, in the 70s, you had cartoon on one day a week in the afternoon for maybe an hour block.
Okay.
And when we came to America, I remember the first Saturday I turned on the TV, and there was cartoons. And I switched to another channel, and there was more cartoons.
Wow.
And I was like, oh, I'm just going to, let me stay home and watch TV the whole day. And Super Friends
Super
was one of the very first cartoons I ever saw.
Okay.
And instantly hooked.
Oh, of course.
Instantly hooked.
Do we have any Super Friends fans in the house? Woo! Nice. Yeah. So, yeah, Batman Beyond. We worked on that awesome DC Rebirth, the collection. The collected edition volume 1 is in stores now, I believe.
Yes.
So, other than like the shows and some of the other artists, what other things inspired you to come into the comic art world?
I've always drawn as a kid. Stay out of trouble, I'd stay home and I'd draw.
Did you hear that,
give me
kids?
a piece of paper, you know.
All right.
Also help with the grades because I got to be a teacher's pet. Do a lot of drawings for the class. But I've always, liked creating, coming up with stuff in my head. And I remember I used to watch movies. I think I was in 6th grade when Return of the Jedi came out. And I'd go watch the movie. I'd come back home and I'd draw all the fight scenes, the spaceships, the space battle, and I'd come up with my own sequences.
Oh, wonderful.
So it was a great outlet at the time. Great.
There's some awesome sequences, like you said, like battle, different things like that, even in Batman Beyond. Is that some of your favorite things to draw?
Batman Beyond is, of course, it's Batman 35 years in the future. So I'm a huge sci-fi fan, love Star Trek.
Okay.
And so just being able to come up with designs and kind of concept what Gotham might look like. Okay. What Batman in the future might, what additional powers might he have.
Wonderful.
So it's been you'd almost say a dream job.
That's awesome. Totally. Did you hear that, kids, though? If you guys want to stay out of trouble and, of course, stay in school, is work on your art. Focus on something like Bernard over here. All right. So let me think. What does a typical day for you look like, Bernard, when you sit down to work on your craft?
Well, I'm sure that you guys have a lot of artists come up. Being a comic book artist, it's a very isolating kind of career. So almost like a hermit. Okay. So I had to actually wear clothes today. Normally I'm in my underwear while I'm working.
Awesome.
But you have to set your own schedule. It's a very disciplined kind of life. Okay. But you can work from home and set your own hours.
That's wonderful.
I like to work at night, late at night when there's nothing happening.
Okay.
You get a very nice, peaceful, quiet kind of block of hours. Also, I attuned that to, as a child and adult, it's the dream phase. So when you're dreaming, usually typically when you're sleeping, a lot of times your brain is in that dream activity, and I think that helps enhance their creativity.
Okay, that's great. So is there any kind of ritual or something when you sit down to draw? Is there any music or playlist, anything cool that you kind of have going on in the background?
Yeah, sometimes, I'll check my emails, I'll read the news, I get a little depressed, and then I'll read something funny.
Okay.
But then typically, you go through all of the basic standard stuff, and then once you pick up the pencil, it becomes all work, and you really begin focus.
Great, that's awesome. So what was the first DC character that you actually drew that you remember?
I remember in first grade, for show and tell, I drew an image of Superman punching through a wall.
Wow.
First grade. And I mean, again, I'd never been part of like a show and tell, so I didn't know. And the teacher came up to me one day, and I was running through the hallways, and the teacher was like, stop running, don't run. I mean, I didn't know English back then, so I didn't know what the hell she was saying. And I had detention.
Okay.
During detention, she said, okay, a couple of days, show and tell. It's your turn. So I had a kid help me translate. Okay. And I thought, well, what can I do? I like to draw. And Super Friends being one of my favorite shows.
Inspirations.
Ended up drawing Superman.
Wonderful.
So.
That's so cool. Now, which DC character have you not drawn yet that you would like to? If any.
I've drawn quite a few.
Okay.
I would say maybe Flash.
Oh.
Because running through the hallway.
Oh, there you go. See, there's a connection there.
I think that's been a pretty cool character. I haven't really gotten a chance, because you figure Flash is running, Olympic runner, but there's different poses and there's different... I'm a big fan of like sneakers and
Kicks.
gear.
Nice.
Yeah, so I always think like, what would Flash wear? Would enhance his speed, maybe a split fraction of a millimeter, millisecond.
There you go. What could get him even that much faster? I like that. So what are some things that are a little bit tricky to draw when you do sit down to work on some pages?
Oh, well, A lot of times when I'm drawing, I like to think about that I already see the image before I actually draw it.
Okay.
So I'm not trying to explore, but I already see it, visualize it first before I put the pencil onto the paper.
Okay.
And then at that point, it's a little bit easier. When you're drawing a comic book, you have to do layouts before you start drawing. So the layout phase is typically where a lot of fans, you don't get to see the layout phase because you don't get to see how a book comes together. But that's typically the most difficult and most challenging aspect.
Okay.
Once you figure out the layout, how the composition of the page, the panels, what goes in each panel, then it becomes a more technical aspect of how well do you draw a face, a building, a car. So it's a little bit more boring then.
When it comes time to
the layouts is the most fun part. Most challenging, but also most fun.
That's cool. That's good to know. All right. What is your favorite thing or your favorite aspect about drawing Batman? What is the one thing that you could maybe name?
For Batman Beyond, I think a lot of it is his silhouette, but also his wings. The current Batman Beyond, he has a new suit. And the suit has more offensive capabilities. So we thought about maybe using his wings as blades, as opposed to just wings for flying. Now they can also become weaponized.
Oh, wow. That's great. All right, I'll take one question from the audience if you want to raise your hand. First one up. Okay, I see. Oh, wait.
Did I go to Purdue? No. When we immigrated to the States, my father taught at Purdue. So I grew up in West Lafayette, and I've been a Boilermaker fan ever since. So yeah, go Boilers. Big E Swanigan is doing well for the Portland Trail Blazers in the Summer League. The football team is when Drew Brees was there, I was a big fan. But they got a new coach now, so we'll see.
That's great. Now, for those looking to maybe
you're not an Indiana fan, are you? A Hoosier fan? Okay, all right. Because if you were, you're disqualified from this raffle for the drawing.
Very good. All right. For those looking to maybe become an artist in the comics industry, what is like a bit of advice that you would give to them, Bernard?
I would say draw every day. Not everything you draw all the time becomes print or museum worthy, or you hang on the wall, but you need to accumulate at least about 10,000 hours of practice.
Oh, wow.
You figure, you look at a prime professional athlete, like a Drew Brees or a LeBron James, they probably started playing sports 3 or 4 years old. And I can remember, earliest memory I have is around 3 or 4, picking up a pen, and I'm in a corner of the living room with my cousins, and I'm doing sketches of naked people, and we're all giggling. But you draw as, start as young as you can, and you accumulate enough hours. So by the time you're about 19, 20, you should have about 10,000 hours. That's when I broke in professionally as a comic book artist, was at the age of 20, here in San Diego, 25 years ago.
Wow, yay, congratulations. Let's get a round of applause there. Woo! 25 years, that's awesome.
So I'm an old man now.
Oh, please.
25 years ago.
No, you aren't. All right, I'll take one more question from the audience, if anybody has one. Yes.
How long does something take you to do the whole page?
Typically it takes about a day, from a blank piece of paper to pencils and inks. So I pencil and ink my own book. And you kind of want to work on a certain pace. Now, sometimes you can probably do maybe up to 2 pages a day, but you want to try to typically stick to about one day, 6 to 8 hours.
That's great. So what does like a typical collaboration session with a writer kind of look like for you?
A lot of times we meet Dan Jurgens is the writer on Batman Beyond.
Yep.
Dan is a legend in the comic book industry.
Woo!
Probably most famous for killing Superman at one point. But, Dan is also an artist as well.
Yes.
So Dan thinks very visually. And it's been a tremendous honor to work with him.
Of course.
But we collaborate, we talk about story ideas, we talk about, where he wants the character to go. And then I think about how visually, storytelling-wise, we might be able to apply some of his concepts.
Okay.
I'm actually going to be writing and drawing my first ever book, Batman Beyond number 13.
Woo! There, round of applause there. Woo! That's exciting. That's very exciting.
So I can't make fun of writers anymore.
No, you can't.
Yeah.
Nope. Now you do it all. Full gamut.
Well, we'll still do it secretly on the side.
Oh, secretly. So what's one of your favorite things to do if you were just to come to the con for fun?
Oh, well, again, as a comic book artist, you're pretty much working in your own studio, so you're very isolated. So when you come to the convention, it's a great opportunity to see old friends. You see them maybe a couple times a year at different shows. Hang out, swap, kind of a job, like a trade talk. Like, how did you draw this?
Shop talk.
Exactly. You read other people's books.
Yeah.
And you might gravitate towards a particular another artist's style, and you ask them, like, hey, how did you draw this? What were you thinking when you came up with this idea? And then see if that kind of influence and as a sponge absorb that, and maybe I can translate somehow back into my own work.
That's amazing. Well. That's great. So I remember you talking about shoes, and I love your hat you're wearing, by the way.
Oh,
if you could design anything, any piece of clothing, what would it be?
Well, I like designing sneakers. If you guys are reading Batman Beyond, you notice Batman Beyond and Terry, like, I've always put a lot of detail into his boots or sneakers or sole footwear. Also the bad guys too. A lot of times artists, they tend to just skip over the feet and they just draw, like a shape, and then boom, they're done, right? But you gotta think, like, Batman Beyond, how he flies is through his feet. He has like these jet propulsion, exhaust modules through his feet. So how does that look? And then how is that traction? And then are there other capabilities where if he can slide, can he do the moonwalk without, because you figure he can go up, why can't he go sideways? So there's different aspects to that. And
okay, that's awesome. All right, I could see that. Batman Beyond sneakers. Can anybody see it with a round of applause? Yeah. Woo!
I need it when I play basketball, the dunk, but you know.
There you go. That's awesome. All right, so I think we're coming down to the wire here. I hope everybody that's been with us the whole time, if you've been paying attention, we'll have a trivia question for you in a second. All right, so is everybody here for the whole con with a round of applause? Yeah? Woo! Awesome. It's exciting. All right, let's take one more audience question, then I'm going to wrap it up. Anybody have a question? Anybody? Yeah?
What's your favorite character to draw?
My
Overall.
favorite character. Well, right now I'm drawing Batman Beyond, version of Terry. Terry's a little different than Tim Drake. When I first started drawing Batman Beyond, it was Tim Drake from Future's End, going back in the future. Now it's Terry has a younger, more slender but longer face. So I try to show that. But Old Man Bruce, now that he's back in the series, Old Man Bruce is a lot of fun. We want to try to make sure all the wrinkles show his wear and tear, but at the same time, his still determination at an older age.
Awesome. Now, do you have a trivia question, Bernard, or I have a good one, just in case?
You
want me to go?
Yeah.
All right. For you, those of you that have been tuning in, what grade was Bernard in when he first drew Superman?
First grade.
Oh, wait. I had to see it. I'm sorry. What was it? First grade. Okay. I'm so sorry, you guys. Thank you so much for coming. I'll have you stand maybe over to the side, okay? Thanks so much. And thank you, Bernard. Let's get another round of applause for Bernard Chang.
Thank you.